All right, good afternoon, everyone. Hello, and welcome to Explain Like I'm Five on Divine Disbelief. I am Susan. Today, what is today? Today is September 26th. And today on Explain Like I'm Five, we have Thomas Smith. Thomas, how's it
Hi.
going?
Pretty good. I'm a little worried because my understanding is a grade level like age 4 of anything. So this is gonna be. I'm gonna have to work hard to explain like you're 5. I'm gonna have to really
You know what? That's
aspire.
totally fine. Yeah.
I have to rise above my normal grade level there. But I'll do my best.
It's all good. It's all good. So,
I got a question for you. What's it like
yes,
having the name Susan? That's my mom's name, actually. There's not a lot of
really.
Susans anymore, is there?
No, and it's funny because it's my mom's name too.
Oh, wow.
So I'm technically a junior, and there's three of us who have the exact same name in our
Okay,
family.
new show topic. Now I want to know about this. I've never heard of, because I was just realizing in real time as you said that, I was like, oh yeah, like John Jr. It's always a dude thing. Like I don't know, there's some definitely some sort of double standard there. There's some sexism. Like but you don't hear about the Susan Turpin Jr. or if I got your name right, Susan Jr.
Yeah.
Like so I've never
How
heard
does
of
that
this.
work?
This is literally the first example of this I've ever heard of. So anyway, question: what's it like to be named Susan? And also, what's it
Um,
like to be one of the few people who's like a Susan Junior, like ever?
so I think I've only ever dealt with one other Susan that's my age in my life. Because I'm, how old am I now? 33.
Wow.
And there was
I feel
one,
like we should have paused aging at 2016. We should have all just
oh,
agreed, like, we're this next 4 years is going to be really hard. Let's all just say we're this age for the 4 years, just to cut us a break, Because like I
yeah,
went from 30, which is you know how that is too, to now I'm like 30 fucking 4, and all I've been doing is trying to get the time through, like get to where we're done with this mess. But then also that means I'm also getting older, and that's depressing. But anyway, so sorry. Go ahead.
yeah. Yeah. And I mean, you're sort of in that stage of your life where like you're married, you have a family and stuff.
Yeah.
And me, I'm just like, I have a cat and two dogs.
Mm.
So it's like
I've
they
been there.
they
Yeah.
don't count as children, but they're about the closest thing I'll have. So it's all good.
It's hard to walk the fine line of this might be interesting. I'd be curious about your perspective on this
Mhm.
as a woman with a cat and two dogs. Is that what you said, or two dogs and a cat, or two
Two
cats?
dogs and a cat, yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. Because I always am worried about walking the fine line of truly my kids are my favorite things in the world, and all I want to do is talk about my kids and post about my kids. But also, I don't want anyone to feel like I'm playing in, because the whole Christian thing, or it's not even necessarily just Christians. They're like, hey, when are you gonna have kids all the time? Like the parent thing or the whatever relative thing. And like I don't want to play into that, but at the same time, how do I also, excuse me, I also cannot help but admit that like my kids are so fucking fun. It's my favorite thing about the world. So like, how do you walk that line? Everybody is obviously free to make their own choices, and like that's what I want to emphasize. But I love kids so much. If there's
See, and
anyone
it's
who's like
funny.
on the line about having kids, like they're not
Yeah.
sure, I would encourage you to do it because it's the best. But if you don't want to, that's awesome too. You know what I mean? It's fine.
Yeah, yeah. And kids are a lot of fun. Like I
Mm.
want to be like a fun aunt so I
Mm.
can have all the fun of, like what grandparents do is
Mm.
basically
Yeah.
just watch the kids for a little while, get them all hyped up on sugar, and then give them back. Because
That
that's
would be
my
nice.
biggest thing.
Yeah, that's true. Especially you're really, cashing in on not currently anyone out there who's not a parent. This is definitely cashing in on that right about now, month what, 8 of this fucking nonsense, set in 7. When is it right now? September 26th. So when did
Yeah.
we start this? 6 months? Are we solved 6 months now?
About 6
Yeah.
months, because that's when I moved to Oregon.
Oh.
Was we moved from Texas to Oregon, and it was the day that I left Texas was the day that Dallas County was all like, "Hey, try not to leave." And
Mm.
then the day that I got to Oregon was the day that the governor was like, "Hey, if you're coming in from out of state, quarantine
All of a
yourself,"
sudden it
which
turned into that movie where Tom Hanks is stuck at the airport forever, basically. Like you have no
basically.
home country. What's that called again?
The
I can't
terminal?
remember. Is it? I was gonna say the terminal. I was like, that doesn't sound right, but no, I guess if we both thought of that. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
think
you have
so.
no. Okay.
We'll say it's right.
So you just said, by the way, one more thing. Everyone from Texas says Texas, right? I've
Mhm.
heard I knew somebody else who said it. Like is that why is that? Because like that's not how it would be pronounced in whatever language it originally is, right? But
Like, oh
it's almost
yeah,
like
because
you're
there's really
it's almost like
Tejas.
it's almost like you're saying X's, like there's not one Tex, but two Texas is like how you guys say it, right?
Yeah, basically.
That's
Yeah. Well, there is the
weird.
song "All My Exes Live in Texas."
Yeah, but that didn't determine the name of the state, though.
How do
Like
you know that?
maybe
You
it
don't
was
know that.
everybody pronounced it Tejas or something or Texas or something until that song, and then they're like, oh, it's actually
That's how you say
Texas.
it.
Oh, okay. And then the whole state was just like, we'll do that. All right.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
And Texas is the kind of state where in 7th grade, instead of taking like civics or history, or well, we took Texas history because apparently we are that concerned about making
You
sure
mean
that
to say
everybody knows.
even more whitewashed? Is that what it is? Like,
Yes.
okay,
Yeah.
they couldn't settle for the normal American whitewashed history. That like that's too not white. We need more whitewashing. So they have a
Exactly.
Texas, yeah. Well, I've
Yeah.
heard that like Texas has such overwhelming power on the textbooks and all that because
Mhm.
yeah. So
Yeah.
they're infecting the rest of us.
Basically. Yeah.
But
So
anyway,
I'm very
speaking of
glad
my
to have gotten
kids,
out of there.
yeah. Speaking of my, oh, where are you in Oregon? That sounds nice. I've always wanted
Portland.
to live there. I mean, it's been a little rough lately, hasn't it? But
A little bit. The Proud Boys are here today.
I was gonna say, are you in the exclusion zone? How much of where you are is actually just a dystopic man against dog eat dog,
It's the
Antifa?
whole thing.
Yeah.
It's just an entire fucking war zone. There's so much violence and everybody, all day downtown Portland is just completely no,
How
it's
much
not.
cannibalism are you seeing day to day?
It's not so much the cannibalism as people have started eating their pets. So we're lucky in that, we're just,
You used
super
to have 4
attached.
dogs and 4 cats, but it's you had to pick your favorites there.
Exactly. Yeah. The
So
older
speaking of my
ones, the
kids,
older ones, they get tough and stuff, so you don't want to necessarily have them first.
I
So,
brought up my kids for a reason, which is that I've been stuck with them. We took them home out of daycare in March or whatever because of
mhm.
COVID. And then that was just too hard because the cool thing about this whole deal in America is you're still expected to do everything you ever were doing. Somehow parents are supposed to still work a full-time job but also have like taking care of their kids and educating them at the same time. So like if you're like a single mom in this pandemic, oh, you're fucked. Like you're
Yeah.
absolutely fucked. I don't know how anyone has survived. We are just a wealth of privilege over here, but we both still work full time. And
Mhm.
Lydia's job in particular, she had just accepted a kind of a promotion right before this.
Nice.
Although it's one
Oh,
of those great
congratulations to
promotions.
her.
Yeah, it's one of those awesome ones where you make less but you do more. But
Oh, fun.
it should pay off eventually. But anyway, so she was I can't remember the exact timing now because again, I can't remember the timing of anything. But I think it was right around when the pandemic started or right after or something. I don't know, maybe right before. Anyway, she's stressed out about her job. She's working all the time, like tons of overtime. And we have these fucking kids with us, which is great, but obviously everything in moderation. So, and it's just became too much. And the funny thing about, I still don't know, what's the story here. And I don't know if it's something I'm doing wrong or what, or if it's just kind of a brute fact about kids, or other possibility, just a fact about my wife's personality. But
Mhm.
when we're home with the kids bother her all the time. So like if she leaves, they'll be fine with me. Like I can parent by myself. It's not that but like for some reason in a tiebreaker scenario, if we're home with the kids, they want more from her all the time. And I don't know what to do about that. Like I'll try to take one of them and be like, "Hey, hang out with me for a minute." And they're like, "Fuck
No,
you."
just don't wanna.
Yeah, this is an insult. Yeah, they'll scream and whatever. And so that became really tough. Like I would rather have had to watch the kids myself half the time, and then like the other half if I could have left, but it's COVID, so you can't go anywhere. So like it ended up being this overwhelming burden on Lydia, which was really not fair. And it was
Mhm.
hard. Like we try stuff like I'd have her, honestly, I'd just lock the kids in a room with me and have her like go somewhere else to work. And that worked, from time to time. But it was a lot of stress. And so we eventually made the decision to send them back to daycare, which I'm
Mhm.
glad we did. But the point of all this is in these last months and indeed in the last few years, basically ever since Disney Plus came out, when was that? A year ago? How long has it been? Does anybody know?
Thereabouts, I think. Yeah.
So whenever that happened, I became now a professional consumer of Disney movies. I
Nice.
went from having, grown up on the 90s classics and I guess like mid 80s to 90s. We're around the same age. So like
Yeah.
I grew up on what, Aladdin and Lion King. Beauty and the Beast is always my favorite one, actually. What's
Mhm.
your favorite Disney movie? This is an important question.
Are we talking classic Disney or what counts as Disney now?
No, I don't want to include Pixar because that's cheating. Every
It's true.
Pixar movie is the best movie of all time, pretty much.
That's true.
There are no bad ones. So I know they technically are now owned by Disney, but I'm not going to count them. So just give me your favorite Disney movie. What's your favorite? I don't. Whichever one you think. Like Disney cartoon, we'll say, not like all the, because I know obviously
Live
Disney
action
now
shit.
owns everything. Disney owns
Yeah, I was gonna
everything,
say these
including like,
are all Star Wars right
yeah,
here.
including
Quite
sports.
see.
Like Disney also owns like probably the Super Bowl or something, so like there's nothing they don't own, but we'll say the cartoons.
Yeah. Little Mermaid. I'd have to say
Okay,
Little
okay.
Mermaid.
So here's my journey on this. That's
Mhm.
a great answer. Not that you need my approval, but that's a great answer because
Still nice to have
yeah,
it.
as a young boy, I hated Little Mermaid because that was the one all of my sisters wanted to watch. Like that was
Mhm.
like the more girl one. Even though I do like Beauty and the Beast, so let's face it, it's not as though I wasn't making some big like masculinity statement. But for whatever reason, this is another cultural thing that I'll never understand. What is it with girls and mermaids? Like there's like tends to be this addiction that every like mermaid tails, mermaid whatever, and I don't have that. I don't understand it, but for whatever reason, girls that
It's
I
an
have known, like, yeah,
obsession.
my sisters and now my daughter are obsessed with having mermaid tails, and I guess it's
Mhm.
just a imitation of what, like, but that's part of what I wanted to talk about with these Disney
Yeah.
movies. I've gone back through it. We've been watching all these Disney movies, and it's so great because before, we were a little limited in what we could watch. I'm so glad. I had like hours of complaints about the fact that Disney would do this fucking vault stuff. Remember that? It would be
Yeah.
like, so one day, what did I decide? I know what it was. One day I was like, I want to watch, I think it was 101 Dalmatians. This is pre Disney Plus.
Mhm.
And I was like, I want to show that one to my kids. And I went online and it was like, you literally cannot fucking watch this movie. Like
Oh,
I typed
Jesus.
it into stuff and they're like, no, you just no. Like there's no, you can't buy it, you can't rent it, you can't like, I don't know, draw it yourself. There's nothing you could do. There was no DVD rental, there's nothing. Disney decided, and this is their, because they control the whole world, this was their prerogative, I guess. They decided that they would, manufacture scarcity by
Mhm.
just periodically taking their movies out of the universe, like they just destroy every copy, like it was
Mhm.
Hitler burning a book or something. And they would just say, you can't have this. And then I think that was all so that, one year they could be like, 50th anniversary, buy the, DVD
Get
set
out
or
of the
whatever.
vault. Oh my gosh. And
Yeah.
it's that forced scarcity thing.
And here's what I want to say. First off, I'm very self-conscious of the fact that if anybody is watching me right now, probably odds are you know way more about everything Disney than I do, because that's I'm not I don't mean to sell myself as a Disney expert, but I'm someone who wasn't really into Disney but then had to watch, I've been subject to countless. It's like you make a bot watch 10,000 hours of whatever, that joke. It's like you made a me watch 10,000 hours of Disney. And so I have a few thoughts. But anyway, what was the point I was getting to? So you couldn't find it, and then now, so that was really annoying. And we had a few movies we like bought, like I bought Moana because it was so good, even though we knew Disney Plus was coming out soon. I was like, I don't care. We gotta. Phoebe was so in love with that movie that we just had to buy it so that we could watch it all the time. And then Disney Plus comes, and now they're all available, which is really awesome. And I unapologetically am glad that I can give Disney more of my money all the time now.
I mean, of course. It's not like they,
Yeah,
don't have enough already. I'm more than happy to give them that money for watching pretty much anything I want to because it's all
yeah.
on there.
I'm guessing they own this stream too, so I don't know if they'll
I
allow
believe
me to.
so.
They own the
Um,
internet.
yeah, I imagine they
You
own
know they
Tree.
own. I don't know how much of a sports person are you. I'm gonna profile and say not a lot, but you never know.
Not a ton,
Yeah.
sort of on the peripheral, because my boyfriend Nathaniel is from Nebraska, so he's a big
Big
Husker
sports
fan.
state. Yeah.
He's a big
Oh
Husker
yeah.
fan. He's a Rockets fan. Um, he's
I was gonna say Nebraska has zero professional sports, right? It's just that they have a
correct.
college something. Yeah, okay. I'm the opposite. So that I think that's why I know nothing about college sports because like California, we're up to our asses in professional sports teams we watch. I guess these states that are more into college, maybe they don't have as many professional teams. I don't know. I have no college anything in sports. So I was like, when you said Nebraska, I was like, what does that mean? And they're like, oh, some sort of college sport. But
It's
anyway,
yeah, it's
point is,
1995. Nebraska apparently is the best football team in the history of
oh,
college football.
okay. What about? I
Which
thought like Miami or whatever was like the best. No, whatever. The
I've
point
heard
is,
him talk about
yeah,
that. I
they
know
do.
who.
Yeah,
I know who Tom Osborne is.
I think
I
it
know
was
who
like Miami in the early 2000s. Anyway, the only point of any of that is, do people know that Disney owns ESPN? Do you guys know that? Like, they own
I
everything.
think
They
I
own fucking
remember.
ESPN. It's the weirdest thing. Like, I'll log in. I think it's a relatively. I don't know when they bought ESPN, but it's at least I don't know a couple years or something, maybe a year or two.
Mhm,
And you notice like if you're a consumer of lots of different things, as I tend to be, because I like sports and Moana, uh, then like
back.
I logged into like we went to Disneyland, fortunately just before the pandemic, which I'm so glad we did. And like I log into the Disneyland app with my like ESPN fantasy team ID. I was like, what? Like, because I have a password manager and stuff. And, or no, it wasn't even that. It was that, like, when you go to set up a Disney anything, it somehow, you put in your email. It's like, oh, we have an account, or whatever. And I'm like, how do I have a Disneyland account? That doesn't make any sense.
It's like, what the
But
shit?
they own everything. So my fantasy football team and like my Disney ID are like the same thing. So weird. So as I've been forced to watch all these Disney movies, I've
Mhm,
realized a lot of things. Like for one, I think they always say like if you're kind of in social justice circles, like representation matters or whatever.
mhm,
And like as a white dude, it's so easy, I think, for a lot of the white dudes in this country or whatever to just be frustrated at anything changing. Like anything
mhm.
to. Oh, Disney's owned ESPN for that long? Oh,
Wow.
okay. I didn't know that. Thank you
I
for the
remember when I
clarification.
remember when they bought ABC.
96 says
Wow.
Jeff there. Wow. Okay. They own
Wow.
everything.
They do.
So, it's easy for, the aggrieved white men to be like, why are you taking away my whatever whenever anything different happens? But as I'm watching these movies with my kids, and especially because, for a while it was just with my daughter until we had
Mhm,
our son Arlo, you really start to realize like how much her personality and what she's learning, they are blank slates. Like kids are just, I don't mean literally blank slate. I know there's the whole like, oh, I don't believe in the actual, and I think almost no one believes in actual blank slate,
mhm.
whatever that is, the theory
Yeah.
of like psychology. I don't believe literally a blank slate, but like mostly a blank slate. If you watch your kid, so if you really pay attention to your kid, from a young age, they pick up everything. They absorb everything around them. And if you're not paying attention, you might think that it just comes out of nowhere. You might just think like,
Mhm.
oh yeah, that's just natural. She naturally was into princesses and she naturally was into dresses. It's like, no, every Disney movie has the girls as princesses and the boys are the like knights or whatever the fuck that has to
Yeah.
save the thing. And like you start to realize like, wow, they just they soak all that up like a sponge. And then the first time they say something where you're like, where did you get that? And you're like, oh shit, that's in a movie. And slowly you start to realize like how problematic a lot of everything was, especially like older stuff.
Mhm.
for example, it's a real shame, but like, oh my god, Peter Pan. That was one of my favorite Disney movies.
Yeah.
And because I love the music, I really love the music to Peter Pan.
Mhm.
I especially like the intro and all that. And just I don't know, I love the songs. I love Captain Hook's hilarious. I love Smee's hilarious. All that stuff. The Peter Pan cartoon. But then they have the fucking Native Americans that are
Oh, yeah.
the
It's
chief
hard
is.
to watch now.
You're just like, oh my god. And is no coincidence that Tiger Lily is like white. So
Oh,
you've
yeah.
got the chief, who's Tiger Lily's dad, right? Like he is just an absolute racial insult, like of a
Mhm.
just a character, just the worst drawn. He's literally bright red. I don't know if you can pull up a picture in your
Let me
stream, but if
see.
you could, let me know. It is shocking. You're like, I cannot believe how racist and offensive this portrayal is. And then Tiger Lily, who is like, kind of into Peter, and so is more of like a character that you're gonna, empathize with. She's drawn as just white, like she's
Of course.
basically a white girl at Coachella, like she like is wearing some Native American stuff, but like,
Feathers and stuff.
and you're like, that is fucking racist as hell. And
Oh
you
my
start to realize these
god.
things. But
See.
fortunately, stuff like, I don't know, is Snow White okay? I think Snow White's relatively okay.
I think
Some of the old
so.
ones are still like, just because they, not because they didn't want to be racist, but there just didn't happen to be any racism in that story, like for them to cover. Yeah, look at that.
Oh my
Like,
god.
but look at the features. I guess, okay, tone wise, Tiger Lily, I guess still, okay, she's
Yeah,
not
but it's
literally
still
white.
like,
Look at her
yeah,
features though.
classically.
Like
Yeah.
they draw her features like essentially a white person, and then look at this. Look at his nose.
Oh my god.
Unbelievable. Like it is, so, and the way he talks too. It's so racist. It is
Oh yeah.
absolutely. It sucks because like I love that movie, but I don't really want her to watch that. So I'm going through the list here because we've had to watch all of them. I haven't really watched a lot of
Mhm.
Sleeping Beauty. Okay, I mentioned earlier though, 101 Dalmatians.
Mhm.
So when Disney Plus came, we could finally watch 101 Dalmatians. And I'm here to tell you that shit is brilliant. It's so brilliant. The first, I don't know, 10 minutes is just this absolutely hilarious bit that as a kid, you've already absorbed everything, so it's weird. You kind of already know all the jokes or all the whatever if you grew up on this stuff.
Yeah.
Or any movie where you grew up on it, you watch it again later and you're like, oh, like I did that a lot with Ghostbusters. As a kid, I thought Ghostbusters was a horror movie. Like I thought it was like I was terrified of it as a little kid, And
Well,
then
I mean,
yeah,
parts of it can be terrifying.
it is because that kind of stuff is actually scarier than CGI.
Mhm.
but so watching it again after, even though I know it's like I still know all the lines somewhere in my brain, but I haven't assigned meaning to them as an adult yet, like, so
Mhm.
I still have just the kid associations of kind of knowing what the words are, but not really thinking about them. And so you watch this and the beginning of 101 Dalmatians, I would encourage everyone to watch that. It is so funny. I mean, it's the whole thing is it starts off as a voiceover where you think it's the human talking, obviously. And
Mhm.
he's talking about all the, I only watched it one more time a few months ago, but essentially I believe it's that he's talking about like trying to find a date or a girl or whatever. And then you come to find out it's actually the dog's inner monologue talking about his, his, what was he referred to him as, his master or his whatever, but his adult, essentially, his human. And it's just fucking hilarious. And like the whole first sequence of the dog, like tricking the guy into meeting the girl and everything.
Mhm.
It's beautiful. It's so good. And you start to wonder, like, I just cannot believe the talent that has been involved in making these movies over the years. Like it's so mind blowing. And I'm going to throw in another recommendation. I'm sure there's plenty of stuff about the history, and I haven't watched that yet about the history of Disney. But what I have watched, which is a topic I was going to get to, Frozen, I have watched Into the Unknown on Disney Plus, which I highly
Mhm.
recommend, which is about the making of Frozen 2. And
Mhm.
I would kill for that same thing, but for Moana or like any of the Pixar's or anything, which maybe,
Just to sort of see all the like
yeah.
behind the scenes and see
Yeah,
like the writing of the songs and stuff.
a little bit, yeah. And what's amazing about it is like on one hand, art by committee seems like it just wouldn't work, but on
Mm,
the other hand, it it does. On the other
mhm,
hand, it's like, I mean, I'm sure there are challenges, obviously, to and so much of art, obviously, art is pretty much entirely subjective, and so when you get a bunch of people together and you're all trying to agree on like what we're making here, it's got to be hard to balance, what everybody's tastes are.
mhm,
I think what you have to do is make some sort of hierarchy. So the director or somebody's calling the final shots or whatever, but they're also subject to the focus group testing and the pressure from like the higher ups and all that. So it's this
mhm,
what's amazing about watching that documentary is there's this incredible, I don't know, not bureaucracy per se, that's not really what I mean, but like like the sheer volume of the organization that is creating this art, just
mhm,
this huge studio of people, of animators, and there's there the funny thing for Frozen is it's just the two songwriters. So when it comes to the music, it's just um it's Kristen Anderson Lopez, and her husband, whoever that is. Do you know who those people are?
I
'Cause-
remember, I think I've seen them or like photos of them a couple few times, but I'm not entirely sure. Um,
yeah, they
I know
have
I know
written.
they're like a powerhouse team
Yeah,
though.
I was gonna say, like, they've written a lot of stuff that
Yeah.
you would probably know. I mean, for one, they did Frozen, and obviously that, yeah, they wrote Let It Go. So like that's a smash, which I don't lie, I hate that song. But in terms of success, like that is a
But Idina
massive
Menzel
album.
though.
Not a big fan
Oh,
either.
I love her.
Really?
I did musical theater and like theater stuff for
Hmm.
a few years when I was in like high school. Like I did competitive theater,
Hmm.
which sounds really doofy, but I feel like that's
Yeah.
something that I know Andrew would understand. Like he would
Yeah.
get like the competitive theater stuff because he does the debate, which is the
Yeah.
same side of it. So,
So I currently do theater, so don't worry, I get you.
oh
I'm a
yeah.
theater person, and
Hmm.
I also did KCACTF in college, which
Hmm.
I imagine is kind of like your competitive theater thing, because
Yeah, yeah.
but I didn't do it in high school. So I'm very much into theater, and I actually first knew Adina Menzel from. But I have a very specific taste when it comes to musicals. I
Hmm.
like almost nothing, and that everybody likes, and then I like a few things that. I mean, I like Sondheim, and a lot of people like Sondheim, but it's still like a niche thing. But she was in a musical called oh shit, now I'm blanking on the name. It's called See What I Want to See. Do you know
Hmm.
it? Do you know it, or are you just
I know, I
nodding
don't.
blankly in
There's
approval?
I listen to basically the same ones over and over,
Yeah, like
but
Les
I
Mis,
recently discovered
Hamilton.
Hadestown.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
I
Hadestown.
recently discovered Hadestown, and that one's
I
amazing.
haven't listened to that. I gotta listen. I saw it at the whatever's fucking, now I'm blank. Tony's? Is that what it's called?
Tony's, yeah.
Yeah, the Tonys. I was like, is that right? Tony's? Yeah, I saw that won a lot of awards, didn't it? And I think I saw a performance or two from it at that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyway, I already kind of knew her before that, and I like her acting well enough, but I always found her singing a little weird because
It's yeah.
she does weird things with vowels to like form. Anyway, she's now a legend, but like she's never been. I don't know. I've never
Not
been
your
a fan.
thing, and that's
Yeah,
understandable.
I love
Yeah.
listening. I actually love listening to what's her name, Anna, better out of the Frozen pair. Like her
Oh,
voice
nice.
is so beautiful.
Yeah.
Um,
And
and
then there's Jonathan Groff, who was just
he's the best.
amazing.
I had no idea how much I love that guy. I really didn't, because I got introduced to him in such a weird order of, okay, Frozen is a thing I'm subject to every day until eventually I I came around and I like it because mainly because of my kid, but
Stockholm Syndrome,
but I
basically.
was like, well, he's good in that, I was like, oh, he's good, and then you find out he's also in Hamilton, as King George or whatever, and it's just like that's the
Oh, and
same
Mindhunter
guy.
too.
What'd you say?
He's in Mindhunter too.
Oh, I haven't watched that. But yeah,
Yeah,
you're like, it's one of those things where you're like, I cannot believe that actor is that good at these different roles, and so I really love him. He's great.
yeah. I think he was in he had an arc in Glee too. I've never watched Glee, but
Yeah.
I'm watching a bunch of YouTube videos about Glee right now, which is basically a bunch of shit like everybody hates Leah Michelle.
Oh,
and everybody was sad when Corey Monteith died,
oh.
and
Haven't a lot of
like
people from that show died? I don't know it, but I
Naya
know
Rivera did.
the only thing I know is from time to time, every, I don't know, 2 years, my wife will say, "Oh, someone died." And I'll be like, "Who is that?" From Glee or something,
Yeah.
or like somebody will have done child porn or something. There's a that
Oh yeah.
show.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oof.
I swear, there's like 5 people that have either died or been busted for some sexual misconduct or something.
Sounds about right.
There's a
Yeah.
bad track record somehow, but I don't know. But anyway, how did I get onto that? So seeing the Frozen 2 thing. Oh, so Kristen Anderson Lopez and her
Yeah, and
husband,
Robert Lopez.
Robert Lopez. Yeah, because they did what have they done here? I'm trying to look it up. They also did, why is it not showing it on the wiki? Oh, Book of Mormon. They did Avenue Q and Book of Mormon.
Oh my god, they did Avenue Q.
Yeah.
Oh my
Do
god.
people are people aware that the people who wrote the music from Frozen 1 and Frozen 2 did Avenue Q and Book of
Amazing.
Mormon? Yeah,
So they're
they're awesome.
responsible for The Internet is for Porn.
Yeah. They're like the best songwriting duo since Paul Simon.
Paul Simon and Paul Simon alone.
Yeah, no, I just came up with that joke right now. I should use that for something, because Simon did everything in Simon and Garfunkel. Garfunkel
That's
did
true.
nothing. Like
That's
literally
true.
did nothing. He didn't write anything. He sang. He didn't even write the lyrics. Like he did nothing. But people would say like Simon and Garfunkel. Anyway.
They're
Uh,
amazing. Well, I mean, Paul Simon.
yeah, the
Yeah.
greatest songwriting duo since Paul Simon. And that, yeah, like all those different things that they've done. I don't know if people are aware of that. Like fucking everybody loves Book of Mormon. It's great.
Yeah. And everybody credits Trey Parker and Matt Stone for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, which, I mean, that's understandable considering the fact that they did the whole, this is how Joseph Smith did the Book of Mormon, and, that whole story. And they have the disclaimer, hey, this is totally fucking true. The whole
Right.
entire time
Yeah.
of the episode of South Park.
Oh, I'm not a big South Park fan, but yeah.
Yeah, I liked it for a little while. But have you ever seen Cannibal the Musical?
No. That sounds really familiar. Did somebody make me watch that? What is that?
So it's a musical that they did when they were at film school in CU Boulder. It's about the only
Yes.
convicted
Yes.
cannibal,
I had
Alfred
a
Packer.
friend. I had a friend. Yeah, I had a friend make me watch that like 15 years ago.
Yeah, I watched it in high school,
What,
and I actually, because I loved making shirts with iron-on letters and shit,
what's
because
the joke? There's one joke that I remember.
Spadoinkle.
What?
Spadoinkle was like the
Spadoinkle? Yeah.
song. It was like the
Yeah.
sky is blue and all the leaves are green. Oh my god, I still love that movie, but I
Yeah,
think
was
it's
it
the
Spadoinkle?
nostalgia factor.
Is that the joke? There's one joke that I remember being funny that like all these years, again, something I forgot I'd even watched. I think from 15 years ago or more. Spadoinkle, is that what it was? God,
Well,
I can't
there's an
remember.
entire song that's
Yeah.
Spadoinkle, but there's also there's a scene where, spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't watched a movie from like 1990 something. There's a scene where, because they're going from, I think, from Utah to California
Yeah.
and stuff because they're miners,
California
and
way. Yeah, don't they
yeah.
keep saying that over and over? Oh my god.
So there's a scene when this is still my favorite joke. There's a scene where they killed one of the guys, and they're like, I mean, we don't have any food, so we're gonna eat him. And they're chopping him up, and he goes, wait, you're cutting into his butt. Well, what kind of piece do you want? Well, not butt. And then they do the fudge packer thing over and over in that
Sure,
one
there's
too.
a bunch of, yeah, everything is speaking back to the main topic, everything's
Yeah.
ruined by time. But like, so here's the thing. When I start to notice all these things that Phoebe's picking up, and it really is like, honestly, if you have kids, yeah, I'm sure if you haven't already noticed this, like, just notice all the things they pick up. Like, I'm glad that things are better now, a little bit, somewhat. Still not great. I listened to a Freakonomics podcast that I barely still listen to, but it was like a year ago, and it was about, I think it was about female representation in movies, and what's her name? The actress from League of Their Own, and that pirate movie that flopped. What is her name? Gina Davis.
Gina Davis.
She I love her, but she had a whole thing. I think it was Gina Davis. God, I hope I'm getting this right. But she had like she was raising kids, I think, and had was noticing how few lead female characters there were and stuff. Like even now, and she, because she has connections, would like go talk to people and be like, "Are you aware of like how there's no female like named female characters that whatever?" And they're like, "Oh no, that used to be a problem, but it's better now." And so she's like, "No," she like actually I think she started a foundation or whatever, and like she was actually went through and did a survey and like counted like, no, here's how few female characters there still are and stuff. Like,
Mhm.
and I think the part of it, the point of it was like they've gotten better at having a lead female character, but then tons of background characters who easily could be girls or whatever, like a lot of kid shows, you know, like toys, like that
Mhm.
have voices. It's like, well, that could easily be a girl, but they don't. Like they often are just men. It was something like that. Go back and find the episode. It was really interesting.
Yeah.
And you notice like how big of a deal it still is. But that brings me to Moana, which is probably now my favorite Disney movie. I would have
Mhm.
said Beauty and the Beast forever because I love it so much. The music is just so beautiful. Um, but you watch that now and you're like, well,
It's a little yikes, but then it's still, I mean,
yeah,
it's a beautifully done movie. I remember
yeah,
we saw that one in the theater. I think it was me, my dad, and my best friend at the time, because that was what, 1992, 93.
91. Yeah, or it looks like just November 22nd, 91 is what I'm saying. I had the
Okay,
Wikipedia up right now.
good job. Um, but I remember seeing that in the theater. I was young, and my dad fell asleep watching the movie,
Yeah.
and we never let him live that down. Like for years, he never lived it down.
I would be
Um,
proud of falling asleep in a theater because I'm not good at falling asleep. So if I fell asleep in the theater, the cause would be so noteworthy that I would be proud of it. It'd either be this is the worst fucking movie of all time, which I would proudly say like I fell asleep, you know, or it would be like I don't know, I was on a bender for a week and so or something.
just hadn't
There'd be
slept.
some story, yeah, like
Yeah,
it wouldn't be like a casual like I fell asleep. That doesn't happen. I never
no.
fall asleep. So yeah, Beauty and the Beast. But then the other thing about kids is that it's all good guys and bad guys, you know.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's why every Disney movie, that's why a Disney villain is a thing. Like there has to be a cartoon bad guy and everything, and then the good guys. And so they always, they always want to divide stuff up into like, is that a good guy? Is that a bad guy? Is that a good guy? Is that a bad guy?
Mhm.
And it makes it hard because like oftentimes you're trying to explain like, well, the Beast, he's a bad guy at first, and then like he's
Yeah,
eventually a good guy. But I always want to rewrite all these versions of this in my head. That's like the adult version, like where like the Beast, she eventually gain. Well, do I have to explain Beauty and the Beast? I don't think I have to explain Beauty
yeah.
and the Beast.
I don't think you have
Yeah,
to explain Beauty and the Beast
yeah,
like
the
we're five.
Beast, right? And I want there to be the Beauty and the Beast version where he's like, I let you go, and it's supposed to be like this big moment of like, wow, he really cares and whatever, and then she just bolts and never comes back, or
Yeah,
like bolts and then like joins Gaston to go kill him or something. Like, yeah, you kidnapped my dad and you're gonna like let him die and then you kidnap me. Whoa, I'm in love with you. Yeah, yeah, definitely, I'm really in love with you.
yeah,
Also, you're a beast. You're
yeah.
not
It's
a
like,
human, like I don't. But
how is this gonna work, man?
yeah, but the other funny thing is that I know about every, again, I'm sorry to stereotype, but every girl in my life who's ever watched that movie says, oh, he was better looking before he changes at the end.
That
Somehow they're more into the Beast than Prince whatever. Let's see, what is his name? I can't remember now. Prince something, whatever he changes into.
I don't
It's not
know.
Eric is
That's Little Mermaid.
mermaid. Yeah, so Prince. I can't remember.
I'm gonna
Anyway,
think of it like later on this afternoon.
yeah, yeah, that's me with everything. I can't
Yeah.
think of any proper nouns until later.
Oh yeah.
And they're all find him more interesting as the Beast than he is as a human, which I think is really, really weird. There's not, I don't, I don't know of a boy version of that in any of as a little boy, as a young man, I can't think of anything where it was like, well, I was into that female beast, but not into the beautiful woman that she turned into. That's a weird thing. Anyway,
I'm
so
trying to think of, yeah, it's like there hasn't really been anything that sort of fits that stereotype.
yeah,
The
I feel
closest
like that
thing is
didn't Shrek.
Shrek, but
Yeah, I was gonna say Shrek tried to like buck that a little bit, by having her stay as a ogre, I think, rather than yeah. But I don't know. It's been a long time since I've seen that. But yeah, here's the thing. So this eventually comes back around to your favorite movie, Little Mermaid. As
mhm.
I'm watching all these, and I'm like, well, I like Belle, but I'm worried. I have to tell Phoebe, I'm like, hey, if anyone ever locks me in a dungeon and then captures you, don't like them. That's not. You don't need to like them. That's not the right thing. They're actually just an asshole kind of thing.
Yeah.
And not that I don't think that's going to come up, but you never know in Trump's America. Like maybe,
Yeah, that's true.
maybe it will. Uh,
Yeah, don't come to Portland, you'll be fine.
yeah, yeah. I'm not currently in an Antifa jurisdiction, but I'm sure it will be soon here in Sacramento.
Yeah.
And so as I'm watching all these, I'm like, well, that character, like, they kind of messed up that character a little bit. I'm trying to think. Mulan. What do you think about Mulan?
So I've been listening to Yo, Is This Racist lately,
Mm.
which is really, really good. Because I work at a progressive independent school and I'm on the Diversity Action Council, and they're
Oh, nice.
focusing on anti-racism stuff this year.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just like, I just sort of need more education on this. And one of the hosts, his name is Andrew T. He sort of went into not just why live action Mulan is problematic, but why, even the cartoon is.
Oh yeah.
He was like, this is a story for white people. Like, this is what they think, actually is a thing, and they don't even like use her full name, which I do not remember what her full name is in the legend. I don't remember. But it's this white perspective of everything, and that goes back to the Texas history thing of like whitewashing shit. Like, but I mean, representation in general in Disney movies, I think has, you're saying, stuff's sort of gotten better, but when your bar is on the floor, you don't really have to make a lot of improvements to look better.
Yeah.
But then it's still through that line.
I can't really speak to I'm gonna take a pass and say that's all probably true and listen to that episode, but I'm obviously I'm not an expert on that at all or anything.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like the gender politics of this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting. I think that one's a little better. So it's like, in terms of like, okay, what do you want your daughter to emulate? It is nice to have a movie that's like, yeah, the girl character doesn't just have to be the princess that gets rescued.
Mm-hmm.
It is nice to have that.
Yeah.
With the full acknowledgement that everything is problematic in some way. And I actually agree that we should try to analyze it. That's actually the point I'm trying to make here, is analyzing this stuff on that level is a good idea so that,
Mm-hmm.
we can do better at it. But that's when I watched Little Mermaid. And while parts of it I still don't like what is it with every Disney movie has to have the kid rebelling against their parents? That seems to be a pretty consistent theme,
Yeah, and there's always a dead parent. Like, it's usually the mother.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah, did we even talk about who's Ariel's mom? Is that ever discussed? Is it a
I
fish?
don't think so. I'm wanting to say there's some point where,
I was gonna say it's a
mother.
fish, but then she'd be 3/4 fish. It doesn't, because her dad's a mermaid. So
yeah, then she'd be fish like up to here,
Yeah,
and that just doesn't work for the
why do they
animator.
always go bottom up? They should go top down. Maybe it's the fish from here down to like, and then it has feet. To the bottom, something.
I've seen drawings of that before.
Yeah, fantastic Futurama joke where
Yeah. Do love that show.
where they go to the lost city of Atlanta down on below
Oh,
the water, and
yes.
then he like falls in love with a mermaid, and then he's like, I'm just gonna stay here. I don't want to go back, you know. And
Mhm.
then she's like, they're gonna have sex, and she's like, well, so
Gotta lay my
I
eggs.
yeah, she's like, I lay my eggs, and then I leave, and then you you know, he's like, he runs away to try to catch him. He's like, why couldn't she be the opposite, like a fish from on the top, and a woman on the bottom?
Fuck, I love that
Like
show.
that would be better. Oh my god, it's so good. Fry is so funny. Anyway, but okay, so there's the whole thing where she doesn't listen to her dad and whatever, but that's all fine because her dad's kind of an asshole. Like
It's true.
that's another thing I tell Phoebe. I was like, because again, she has to put everything into the good guy, bad guy framework. And so Ariel is studying, has a collection of these human tokens,
Yeah.
look at this stuff, isn't it neat kind of thing.
Yeah.
And her dad just comes in and just destroys it all. And I'm telling Phoebe, I'm like, he's being a bad guy, like
Yeah.
that's because everything that happens, is he a bad guy? Like that's her first question. And
Mhm.
I was like, yes, actually, he is a bad guy. Like he's not, a dad should never do that. Like to
Yeah.
try to destroy all your stuff.
And
So
he's
sometimes,
so fucking controlling
yeah,
too. Like it's a form of emotional abuse,
absolutely.
basically.
And I'm just like, I'm happy to be like, no, yeah, he's a bad guy. He's for sure a bad guy, like not even close. And then, but what I wanted to say is Little Mermaid, I think, has the best prince. Because like Prince Eric is just a dude sailing around,
Mhm.
like he's an adventurer, whatever. And he's not trying, like he wants to, find a wife, but is not settling for someone he's not into and all that. And he's just like a good guy, has a dog, like
Yeah.
has a nice
There's always a
dog.
plus.
He's competent. He's a competent sailor. He's heroic. He's got a heart of gold. He's as much as the childhood me was like, girl movie. I watch it now and I'm like, damn, that might be one of the best ones because he's he's actually a prince that you're like fine with, like with your daughter watch, like
Mhm.
it's not because a lot of the princes in these things are like, they don't do anything. They just are the prince, so
Yeah.
therefore they get the girl or whatever, and you're
It's
like,
their
oh
defining characteristic.
yeah, entitlement, male entitlement. That's what it is. But he's a great prince. You know, there's
Yeah.
some bad ones out there, but I think he's a good one.
Yeah. They're and there's what I've also noticed with the ones I can think of just sort of off the top of my head is that there's usually this aspect in the Disney movies of the the princess, the girl, the woman, depending on how old she is, um, has to change
Hmm.
in order to, to be appealing.
Hmm.
Because that's something that I think I don't really know when I realistically notice that, but you see these, oh, I have to change, and that's something that happens in Beauty and the Beast too, is she sort of has to be like, I've gotta basically deal with this.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh man,
Well, and
come on.
something like Snow White, which I think is just a masterpiece artistically, like looking
Mhm.
at how did they do that? I'll never understand as long as I live. I've seen documentaries of it. I don't believe it. I think it's aliens. It's like the pyramids.
Yeah, basically.
Aliens came back and made that movie. And like the motion, I still don't know to this day if Disney has like fixed it or enhanced it over the years. Because if you watch that movie on Disney Plus, the way she moves and dances is like they couldn't have done it. I refuse to believe it. It's impossible. And they
Well,
all did all that by just drawing the fuck out of it. So
right.
amazing. It's
And
amazing.
they used a lot of that same animation templates uh for other Disney movies
Oh
too.
yeah, I remember I've seen that. Yeah, but
Yeah.
the cool thing about Snow White is like it was the first one. No one else had that animation technique where he was doing like the background and the foreground in a certain way and all this stuff to make.
Mhm.
But something like Snow White, the princess, the protagonist, whatever, is just like the epitome of what society would want a housewife to be, you know?
Mhm.
She's just like pure as snow. She just bakes really well and talks to animals. That part's fine. I mean, I'd be cool, you know. Phoebe wants to talk to animals. You can keep that part. That's
Yeah,
go
it's
ahead
like
and
that's fine.
model that. That's cool. But like that's all she is. You know, her entire character is like being nice.
Mhm.
And she's
Yeah.
so nice and also by the way so beautiful. That's that's the bad message here.
Mhm.
Cinderella. Cinderella is a movie that proves that no matter how poor you are, if you're a beautiful girl, then a rich dude will take you out of that squalor. Like
I mean, of
that's, you know what I mean?
course. Yeah. I
What
mean, it
about the
really makes sense.
Cinderella who's not doesn't happen to be the most beautiful princess in all the kingdom? You know, like we need more. When I watch, go back and watch these things. I want more like class commentary on in my Disney movies. You know,
We
like
need
who?
we need to have a Disney movie where the evil stepsisters are the protagonists in it.
Well, interesting, maybe because it's almost like the stepmother is doing what she needs to do to survive. You know,
Mhm.
she married the Duke or whatever the fuck. I don't know.
Yeah.
Whoever, I don't know. She married somebody, Cinderella's dad. But I guess he couldn't have been anything because she was nothing, right? Or why does she have no status? Is it because,
I think they
well,
were just rich.
well who was rich? Because Cinderella
Yeah.
is like forced to be like a servant.
Well,
So
but
how does
then
that work?
the stepmom and the stepsisters are still like
So is it
going to
like
balls
because
and shit.
she married her dad and then he died, that
Yeah,
means she's in control of everything? And okay, so that's what it
I
is.
think so.
Yeah, gotcha.
I feel like
But
it is.
but a lot of these Disney movies, you're like, why is there a kid? Who made them the royal family? You know, we need some of it that's like the peasants should rise up and form, you know, some sort of solidarity movement
Yeah.
to figure out why the fuck these. And there's a lot of the stories that I read too. You know, a lot of these bedtime stories for Phoebe. A lot of them's
Mhm.
like, well, there was a king and a queen, and they're the king. I'm like, what?
It's like, why do they
Yeah,
always have to be royalty? I don't
yeah.
understand.
Why are they in charge of everything? And it really smooths over a lot, you know? It's
Mhm.
like they ruled and everybody loved them. I'm like, really? Everybody loved them?
Yeah, that's not realistic.
Everybody loved the king and queen that gets to sit in their fucking golden throne and has all the resources. What's this economy? You know, like what supports all this? Who
What is it
sells
based
what?
on?
Yeah, or do they grow wheat? What is who? What's the kingdom and why do they have? You know, so I that part's still missing from a lot of these, but
Yeah.
I think the ultimate conclusion of all this, as we're getting to time here, is that it might just be that Moana is the best Disney movie of all time because it's they've pretty much fixed it. You know, like they ironed out a lot of the issues.
Mhm.
They allow the girl princess to still be the hero, but she's not sitting around. There's no love story,
Mhm.
which is great. Why does it? You know, why does my 3-year-old need a love story? Who
Yeah.
cares?
Yeah. And there's so much like you were saying with the good guys and the bad guys and making it
Yeah,
very very much black and white. And it's very important that you're explaining, no, this is bad. It's like you don't do this like with the good guys, but there's so much nuance to it.
yeah. That's
Like,
been
and
a bit
it's
major
hard
thing with anything with a lot of these movies now. I try to do the thing where I'm like, well, he's a bad guy, but he could be the good guy. Like here's
to.
he and then later on he turned into the good guy cuz you know, they were nice to him and he whatever. And like a lot of Moana is like, well, Maui is kind of the bad guy in the beginning, but he's not really a bad guy. You know, he's still it's not as though you know, because conservative reactionaries are always like, oh, it's gonna, you know, they're taking away masculinity, blah blah blah. Maui is still like a hulking giant, you know,
Mhm,
like he's like the strongest guy in the thing, but he's not gonna solve everything by his muscles, you know, and I think it's a
mhm.
good message,
Yeah, yeah.
you know,
And then Jeff
and the
Jeff is saying that's why I liked
mm,
Brave.
I
That
don't
I
know
was gonna
about
bring that
Brave.
one up actually.
So first off, Brave is Pixar, so I was My no Pixar rule.
Mildly counts.
Again, Pixar, every Pixar movie is fucking amazing. It's
It's
not
true.
fair. They're all so good. I could do hours on Pixar. But Brave, I don't know about Brave. Brave's a weird one. I guess it might be good.
I'd have
But
to
like
watch it again.
her mom though, like her mom character is really tough, and the here's my problem with Brave. They depict these societies that
Mhm.
I think were very patriarchal. And this applies to a lot of Disney movies now. They depict these societies that were super patriarchal, but they're like, well, but we want to make that not that because it's now. So,
Mhm.
but we want the women to be like stronger. But then, like, I don't think it would work within that society, like in
No.
terms of like the warrior, male dominated societies that sometimes are the subjects of these movies. It's like, we'll do that, but then we'll say like the wife's the badass and the daughter's the bad, and you're like, okay,
Like,
I
does
get
that
maybe that works,
fly?
but it feels
Like,
like I don't know
realistically.
that would have, like that wouldn't. You got to change something in the dynamics of how the kingdom works. I
Mhm.
don't know. Maybe that's just me. It's a little weird, but like Moana. Here's what I'll also say. Oh, you're a musical theater person, somewhat, right? Or you used to be.
Mhm. Yeah.
Because like I think that "You're Welcome" is one of the best musical theater songs ever written. It does
Mhm.
everything you want to do in a musical theater song. You want to advance the plot. You want to like um tell people about the character. You want to tell the audience who this character is.
Yeah.
And you want to fucking rock. You want to you want to slap. You want the song to be good. And You're Welcome introduces you to Maui in a way like you already kind of found out about Maui a little bit in the beginning of the movie, but it tells you everything you need to know about that character, like
Mhm.
everything. And it's all character driven, like his ego and why he's doing what he's doing in his history. And it moves along in a way that's funny and you love the song. It's
Yeah.
catchy. It's it's perfect. It's such a
It
good song.
works.
It's a
Yeah.
it's everything you want in a musical theater song. I love
Yeah.
that song is brilliant. I've listened to it so much. Yeah, it is Lin-Manuel Miranda. That's true.
Yeah,
I think
it's
I think his
Nathaniel talking on the divine
yeah,
disbelief.
I think his Moana work is far better than any of his Hamilton work. That's just me. Because I can't tell you an equivalent song in Hamilton. I tried. I don't. Anyway, that's just me. But also another one like that is Summer. I think or is it In Summer or Summer from Frozen? Perfect
Mhm.
song. Absolutely perfect song. You said you hadn't seen Frozen in a while, right?
Yeah, it's been a hot minute.
It
I think
is
it was like
so funny. It is so good. Like the word it's just it tells you about Olaf, this blank slate of a character, and it
mhm.
does so with this clever conceit that everything he's saying is a double meaning of like he's actually going to melt in summer, but he isn't aware of it because he knows
Mhm.
nothing about heat. All he knows is the 5 minutes that he's been alive, and it's perfect. I love that song so much. Couple of great songs right there. So yeah, I've
Now I
come
wanna go
around.
watch it, so thank you.
The biggest mistake the most wrong I ever was on anything probably was that I didn't want I was never gonna let Frozen come into my household because when it came out in 2013, or whatever it was, my brother had a daughter who was well probably Phoebe's like some younger, and
Mhm.
what you get is like a gaggle of 7-year-olds screaming "Let it go" at the top of their lungs all the time. And I didn't even get to this sucks because my main thesis for today was going to be Elsa is actually an emotionally abusive person and is not protagonist of this. And I'll finish with this because it's coming up on kidnap time here anyway. When it comes to the good guy bad guy uh dichotomy, I tell Phoebe and she agrees that Elsa's a bad guy. She's a bad guy.
I can
Okay,
see that.
here's what happens in Frozen. She accidentally uses her magic and she hurts Anna. Okay,
Mhm.
yeah, I don't blame her for that. She's a kid. Accidents happen. And then so they have to save her and the fucking troll is like, "Well, we have to erase her memory. It's the only way." I'm like, "Why is that the only way? What the fuck does that mean? It doesn't make
Yeah.
any sense. Just cure her. Do whatever." And so they erase the memory of the powers. And then there is nobody in there. No soul said that you have to never talk to your sister again. No, like Elsa just decided even after her parents die, and there's literally no one for Anna to talk to. Anna would be an emotional wreck, and she kind of is, but she would be way more. Imagine like a 7-year-old girl or whatever age she's supposed to be loses her parents. Her sister never talks to her again, just shuts off in her room, and she's like a little affected by it.
Yeah. She's like, I mean, I'm still
Elsa,
relatively normal, you know.
yeah, nobody told Elsa that she couldn't even talk to Anna. She just had to not use her powers with her. Come on.
That is a severe form of depression. I really think Elsa could have used some like hardcore therapy.
And then Anna is this essentially this like, what is she? She's like codependent with her or whatever. Oh, the worst. Yeah, Elsa's damaged. Does that give you an excuse to damage others? No, it doesn't. They do touch on that in Frozen, by the way. I think that's mainly what the movie's about. I don't know about them not touching on that. Like the whole movie is the arc of the movie is she has to learn that like there is a positive way to deal with her powers, and they tidy it up pretty quickly at the end. They're like, oh yeah, love, and then the whole world falls out. It's like, yeah, it took you till now. The whole plot, like you ruined it, froze the whole world or the whole city or kingdom or whatever the fuck. And then you're like, oh yeah, love, and then it's cured. That's a quick transition. But anyway,
love is the cure-all, of course, according
Elsa's
to
that guy. Anna's the best character. I love her. And end of dissertation.
I love it. I think you can now probably like go like do like an entire just long ass Facebook post if you haven't done that already, just about how
it's possible I have. I'm not sure if I have.
It's distinct possibility. All right, so that, you know, it's I thought this was very, very entertaining because you're just like, I don't know if I could talk for an hour.
Well, I can talk for an hour. I can't explain anything that like I can explain Disney movies from my perspective, not having been that into it and then being forced to watch them for 10,000 hours. But I'm not, you know, I don't know. I don't have a lot of like fandom anything.
Well, it's a different perspective, definitely. Yeah. I think so many people just take Disney movies at face value. Like they don't really look into it, and they don't really see how so many of them, and this is through a 2020 like super progressive lens. They don't see that there's a lot of stuff that is just yikes. It's just like yikes sort of thing. And then there's
all my friends are like fucking experts on like Disney. They know everything. So it's a little weird for me like to come and like say anything about it, because if I say anything about a Disney movie to any of my friends, they were there when it was made and they know every fact about. It's crazy. Maybe I just have weird friends who are very into Disney, so that's why I was a little self-conscious about it.
It's possible. It's possible, but also, I mean, yeah, I can. This is all Star Wars.
I don't have anything like. There's nothing in my life that's the equivalent of that. It's weird. I've wondered about this, and I'm not judging. I don't have a thing that I like. I guess the Sharks. Like I watch the Sharks games all the time, but like I don't know. I've never been a like collector of things. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. It seems cool.
It's not everyone's thing. Yeah. It's not. It's basically this collection or this generation's Beanie Babies.
Ooh.
So
those were worth like millions, and then now they're worth pennies. Is that what you're saying?
Currently, a lot of them are worth a lot of money.
Nice.
I think the one that we have like Luke Skywalker in an X-wing that's worth like 150.
Star Wars stuff.
Yeah, this is all Star Wars. Yeah, and so there's some above me. There's the ones back there. We've got we have the Boba Fett helmet that's on Nathaniel's desk. Nice. But there's
do you have my same water cup back there?
I don't think so.
Look at that. It's like the same exact shape back. Or am I missing?
I have a Yeti. Is yours a Yeti? Did it cost you a bunch of money?
Doesn't it look move your hand?
It does. The
exact same.
That one's blue.
Gray thing. That's blue?
Yeah, it's like a Tiffany Robbins egg blue. I bought a Yeti because
I think I bought this at Target. It's probably not as fancy as yours, but I just wanted the hugest ass water thing that I could get. It's tired of
Makes
refill. I drink a lot of water. It's tired of refilling it every 5 seconds. All
smart.
right,
Smart.
I got to put my
Yep.
kids to nap time.
Yep. All right. Well,
This was a
thank you so much
pleasure.
for joining me, Thomas. I do really, really appreciate it. Thank you so, so, so much. Where can everybody find you and support you?
Oh, listen to Opening Arguments or Serious Inquiries Only or Philosophers in Space is another good podcast. Search those in your podcasty things.
Sweet. Great. Awesome. Big Opening Arguments fan, by the way.
Right.
Big fan of that. Really love that show.
Appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank everybody so much. We do really appreciate y'all joining us in the chat and watching and everything. And if y'all want to support Divine Disbelief on Patreon, it's patreon.com/Divine Disbelief. We have a Facebook, we have a Twitter, we have a Buy Me a Coffee, which is like a new one. I don't get it. I don't know. So that does it for us. Thank y'all so much. And we will see y'all